All right, I think we're live. Push one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 821. Space and technology. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. There's a docket in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with and reference. If you want to engage in discussion, just let us know. We'll send you the link. Just give me a second. Let me share my screen. We can get started. Push one in the chat if you can see my screen. All right, we can get started. This is from cointelegraph.com. Blockchain technology lets East African farmers sell globally. Small farmers in the developing world may be on the cusp of an agricultural breakthrough. With emerging technologies like satellite imagery, drones, and machine learning boosting productivity, it's becoming more viable than ever to sell their produce in places like Western Europe. There's just one catch. Avocado farmers in East Africa or coffee growers in Latin America have to be able to document that their crops have been grown in accordance with sustainable agricultural practices. Their harvest bounty can't come at the expense of defunded forests or through the assistance of child labor. And if their products are labeled organic, they will have to provide certification that no synthetic fertilizers and pesticides were used. This is where blockchain technology could play a significant role. Blockchain creates a great solution with an immutable record, particularly combined with mobile or in other emerging technologies. John Trask, CEO of Demetra, an ag tech firm active in 18 countries, which has worked with government agencies in Brazil, India, Uganda, and Nepal, told Cointelegraph. On July 20th, Demetra and 1 Million Avocados, OMA, a sustainable focused tech group, announced a partnership to help Kenyan avocado farmers boost production and quality through cutting-edge emerging technologies like including blockchain. Demetra's multi-tech platform, which also includes mobile technology, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, satellite imaging, and genomics, will give small farmers greater access to solutions to further promote sustainable farming practices, primarily in pest and disease prevention and data reporting, according to the press release. Another key goal of the partnership is to help farmers in East Africa overcome traceability issues to ensure maximum value of produce and to align with international regulatory frameworks. It's not just in Kenya or the African continent where the movement of agricultural goods from the global south to the global north is picking up either. We have the same situation in Indonesia, Brazil, and a few other Latin American countries, Trask told Cointelegraph. When the farmers, are exporting their produce, they can get more dollars per kilo. Documentation will be critical for would-be exporters, especially with Europe's new deforestation regulation, which went into force in June. Through its main obligations, though its main obligations won't apply until year-end 2024, you will have to prove that your firm has not been involved in deforestation, explained Trask, adding, when an avocado farmer in Kenya goes to export their produce, they need to create certain documentation to show the origin of the produce. There is security associated with that document. It's easy to create a fraudulent document. This is true. Enter blockchain, the traceability tool par excellence. Blockchain trace data is immutable and can serve as a proof for farmers to get certifications or loans. Researcher Shu Chen, who recently completed a master's thesis on coffee growing in Colombia, told Cointelegraph, quote, a blockchain company is working with carbon credit companies, for example, so that the farmers that are operating sustainable practices can have recorded data on their farming and get additional income. One of the biggest problems facing small farmers is information asymmetry, Chen explained. Coffee brands and roasters capture the highest margin of the coffee price because they are closer to the end customers and can leverage branding and marketing. Farmers, on the other hand, don't know where their coffee goes after they sell it. The destination of their coffee or any coffee market trends, which keeps them in a vulnerable situation in the supply chain, she adds. What blockchain could potentially do, she continued, is facilitate two-way transparency so that not only do stakeholders at the end of the supply chain know where the coffee comes from, but farmers also know what happens in the downstream supply chain. Demetra will use satellite imaging technology to help Kenyan farmers prove they aren't ravaging woodlands to grow their avocados. But this technology can also be used to enhance productivity. By applying machine learning models to satellite imagery, Demetra has developed algorithms that can pinpoint where more fertilizer is required or where irrigation needs to be stepped up. For example, a multi-tech solution may generate synergies too. As Monica Singer, South African lead and senior strategy at Consensus, told Cointelegraph, when you are able to create an ecosystem using mobile and Internet of Things and AI, where relevant, it will be a more powerful solution than blockchain ledger on its own. Is this cross-disciplinary approach the wave of the future? I believe that blockchain can't do it on its own, Trask said. We need to combine technologies in order to provide the services that agricultural industry needs. It may be different in the financial sphere, conceded Trask, who has spent the past 6 years working on blockchain-related projects. His supply chain related experience goes back even further. DeFi use cases can often stand on their own, but agriculture is different. When we combine those technologies, machine learning and visual imaging and drones with blockchain, we can get more bang for the buck. The firm has trained machine learning models to recognize what a tree looks like using satellite images. A tree must have a certain canopy, height, etc. The firm can generate deforestation reports that illustrate within the boundaries of a farm where the trees may have been removed and where they have been added over a period of time. Demetra says Kenyan farmers can double their productivity by applying emerging technologies available today, but how much of that grain derives from digital ledger technology per se? Quote, it does require a combination of technologies, answered Trask, but one shouldn't overlook blockchain's importance. We originally did a project in East Africa around cattle, he said, adding farmers discovered that they could get 50% to 100% more per pound of beef than they would if they didn't have the traceability blockchain system. If African avocado farmers can meet the European Union's documentation requirements, well, they can get 30 to 50, maybe even a couple 100% more on export. Further gains from AI-driven enhancements in areas like irrigation and fertilization could result in a further doubling of productivity, he suggested. Others agree that blockchain technology can become a factor in its own right with regard to the continent's agricultural sector, particularly if its record-keeping capabilities are used for quality assurance, as Shadrach Kubrin, a co-founder of South Africa's Coronet blockchain and IFAMA app, told Cointelegraph. The importance of tamper-proof agricultural records was driven home to Kubrin by the world's worst ever disastrous outbreak, which occurred in South Africa in January 2017 and had a death toll of exceeding 200 people. That case continues to be contested in the courts to this day, he said. The primary suspect remains a major food processing and distribution entity that, to this day, insists it was not the major source of the outbreak. Quote, had blockchain been in full force across the specific food chain, then the determinant factors and source of the outbreak would have been determined in 2.5 seconds or less, rather than waiting 6.5 years for a still pending verdict. So I won't read the rest of this. I think what's important here is to understand is that there has to be a understanding of what technologies, emerging technologies are out here, and how do you make them work for the use cases that are available. I know a lot of people like to throw out Bitcoin, but Bitcoin isn't, the end all be all here. We're always talking about emerging technologies in terms of the digital infrastructure, blockchain being one of them, as the article is highlighting, and then AI, and then you're talking about IoT, which is Internet of Things, and then you're talking about satellite imagery, 5G, mobile devices, tablets, and things of that nature. How do you leverage all of these emerging tech pieces to put them into perspective so that they can actually be leveraged for use cases on the ground? I think when you start thinking about lithium-ion batteries, for example, in New York, we see there's a lot of fires going on because of these, mobile micromobility vehicles setting fire inside these apartments when they're charging. But the idea shouldn't be to just ban scooters and e-bikes from being charged in the apartment. The idea is to go down to the source as to where are these components manufactured and how are they being manufactured and how do you best, get traceability around this, right? The idea here is to go from where it was manufactured, where it was being sold, and how is it being, how is it the end user engaging it, right? And so there is a use case for blockchain. There are many use cases for blockchain. And I think that, the Africans, to me, in my experience of being on the continent, I think that they are doing a lot of dope things with blockchain. What's going on, Complex Design?
Yo, Mike, can you hear me?
You gotta turn your volume up.
Okay, hold on one second, man. Let me just step outside. Give me a second.
All right.
Okay, Mike, can you hear me okay, man?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, there we go. All right. Shit, man. There was a few things you were kind of touching on. I don't really have a point outside of just kind of touching on some of the things you were mentioning with regards to like IoT, stuff like that, and seeing how this type of stuff is about to just be more onboarded.
Yep.
When it comes to like development, infrastructure and stuff like that. This is things that are going to be just more prominent, even in farming and stuff like that, agriculture, everything.
Mhm. Well, I mean, you could take it one step further in terms of if you want to think about it from another domestic use case, you could talk about the production of cannabis, growing of cannabis, knowing where the source, where the cannabis was grown, who grew it, what the transportation of it was, what was the duration of it, and all the way down to the dispensary, down to the customer.
Yeah, you're talking about basically track and trace.
Yeah, traceability through blockchain.
Through blockchain. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's what yeah, just so for you guys that don't know, Paragon coin, you guys want to look them up. That was one of the first cannabis tokens, right? That got prominence back in 2018 when the Brain Trust started. And we did a few live streams. If you go way back into the archives, crypto, we pulled up the Paragon wallet or the their whatchamacallit, the ledger. Just to kind of just dig into all this kind of stuff since it's out there and we can look at it and all that. But yeah, Paragon, somebody we covered 5 years ago, was doing just that.
All right, let me move on to the next item on the docket. This is from Business Insider. Africa's smartest cities, top countries embracing urbanization and technology. As the world enters a new era of urbanization, smart cities are emerging as beacons of progress, embracing technological innovations to create sustainable and efficient urban environments. The IMD Smart City Index 2023 provides valuable insights into the cities at the forefront of the transformation. Although African cities are gradually making their mark, a select group of nations stand out in driving Africa's smart city revolution. Let's explore the 9 African countries in the IMD Smart City Index 2023. Number 1 is Egypt. That's interesting. Egypt was number 1. Leading the charge, Egypt's Cairo emerges as Africa's smart city vanguard, a fusion of history and technology. Cairo embraces modernity to enrich the lives of its citizens and shape a smart future. Algeria is number 2. As a rising star, Algeria captures hearts with its smart urbanization initiatives. As epitome of sophistication, the city seeks harmony between nature and innovation. Number 3, South Africa in Cape Town. Embracing a tech-driven landscape, Cape Town shines as a beacon of modernity in Africa. It's embracing a blend of smart solutions and breathtaking scenery creates an unparalleled living experience. I haven't been to Cape Town, but I have been to Joburg. And I've heard a lot of great things about Cape Town in terms of its development, tech development down there. Think about Cape Town, I guess, in the same way you would think about, let's say, Miami. That would be the equivalent of their Miami. Morocco is number 4. Fusing tradition with technological advancements, robot in Morocco takes center stage as a smart city icon. Sustainability and digital transformation form the bedrock of its urban brilliance. I wouldn't have thought of Morocco in that way, but I have seen, enough content about Morocco to see that they have modernized the place in ways that I think other African countries can actually take note of. Kenya, Nairobi, Africa's heartbeat of innovation. Nairobi is a testament to the continent's smart future, a tapestry of connectivity and progress. Nairobi envisions an inclusive and dynamic urban haven. Kenya is a very forward-thinking country. They rely on a lot of STEM. STEM is really the biggest driver over there. And so it doesn't surprise me that they're on the list, but I'm surprised that they're at number 5. I would have thought they would have been at number 1, personally, based on their their mobile banking system, and as well as a lot of their, um, tech shops that are opening up there. A lot of startups popping up there. I'm surprised that they're at number 5 and not at number 1. Nigeria is number 6. Nigeria's bustling Lagos boasts a dazzling skyline and a smart urban tapestry. The city's vibrant spirit embraces digital ingenuity, fueling boundless possibilities for its citizens. That's another thing, I don't know why this index is like this. I think that Nigeria and Kenya should be at the top and not necessarily at the bottom. I don't know what the criteria is for grading these countries, but I feel like that sub-Saharan countries tend to be a little bit more forward-thinking than your Northeast African country, or your Mediterranean-based countries in Africa. I think that from all things that I've seen, I think that Nigeria and Kenya should be at the top, not necessarily at the 5 and 6 and 7. That seems a little bit odd. Tunisia's enchanting charm takes center stage as a smart city trailblazer, a masterful fusion of heritage and innovation. Tunis unlocks a world of possibilities for its residents. Keep in mind, Tunisia was one of those countries of the what do they call it? The Arab summer some years ago, maybe about 10 years ago. And they overthrew it.
Okay, Arab summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're very low complex. I don't know what's going on. But Ghana is number 9 with a flair for the future. Accra elevates the smart city narrative in Africa, empowering its citizens through cutting-edge technology. Accra fosters a thriving urban resistance. The fact that, Rwanda is not on the list, I question the legitimacy of this. Now, I'm not disagreeing with Ghana as being a very forward-thinking. There are a lot of really talented people over in Ghana. But I would not say that Ghana is more talented or more innovative than Rwanda right now. I would say that Rwanda should be on that list, and they should be in the top 5, if anything else. I don't get how this list is really crafted, but that's what they say.
Am I coming in okay now, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious about that. I didn't see Rwanda up there. Like we've covered Rwanda extensively in terms of what it is that Paul Kagame transformed that country into. So that's kind of a
Created their own phones.
That I'm saying they have their own plants, dude, where they're like building and assembling all this stuff. And I'm like, how are they not there? They have the first plants to do all this stuff.
I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Yeah, they didn't even put Rwanda on there.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they were on there last year and we just didn't know about it. But for me, I don't see how they're not on the list. I find that to be quite questionable.
Yeah, and some of the other places too. I don't know. Like they say, like Tunisia and stuff like that. Like I don't really know of like legitimate like projects or something. I mean, maybe it's just never kind of come across our wire where we covered them or something, but we know what's going on in Rwanda, for example, right?
Yeah.
So that's something we can kind of speak to, even source some of the technology ourselves to test it out, right? I still use the Mara phone today. Yeah, the kind of didn't make a lot of sense on that one.
Yeah. So maybe they grade it based on the citizens' engagement with the government itself or government services. And so does the government provide innovative solutions to connect to its citizens? I don't know. That's one criteria to measure, but I don't know what they're really using.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think it could be like the Africa Agenda 2030 criteria, maybe?
No, because this is global.
Okay.
This is global, but they're just measuring African countries on the list.
Just African countries on the list. Okay.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I mean, Africa has 50 plus countries. I'm surprised only 6 or 7 even end up on there. I find that to be weird. And Rwanda's not on there. Uganda's not on there. It's kind of questionable.
I mean, O'Shea's there.
Yeah, Togo's another up and coming African country, sandwiched in between Ghana and another colonial state.
Wait, did you say Togo's and sandwich?
It's in between Ghana and
No, dude, that was a joke, bro. Like Togo's is like a sub franchise, a sub sandwich franchise out here on the West Coast. You said Togo and sandwich. I was like, really? Well, it was a joke, bro.
Okay. All right, man. This is from bizjournals.com. Founder who left high school to be a programmer brings tech literacy to students. Born and raised in Brookline, Rick Fredkin said he completed his last real year of education in 9th grade. Fredkin described himself as a very poor student who also happened to be very good with technology. As a teenager, he made a deal with the town in which he would work full-time as a programmer, submit his timesheets, and take night classes at a college. He went on to work for such companies like Nike and EMC, now owned by Dell, before starting his own consultancy practice. Oh, shit. Let me, just give me 1 second.
So on my channel, welcome everyone. If you haven't, please like the video. If you do like it, share it if you feel inclined to do so. And yeah, feel free to ask questions or chime in on the conversation.
All right, just let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, are you good?
Now, Fredkin is the co-founder and CEO of Eduporium, a company that helps teachers, schools, and districts introduce cutting-edge technologies to their students, from drones to software coding to virtual reality. Quote, there's always a new wave of technology being introduced, and with education, just like anything else, there was a new wave of technology, a new wave of capabilities at a price point that made it accessible, Fredkin said. What we saw is that this wasn't being represented in the channel anywhere for education. Fredkin co-founded Eduporium 10 years ago and began working with schools in 2015. Eduporium is a registered minority-owned business and has an office in Newton. Fredkin said the company has about 15 employees and is used by about 7% of U.S. school districts. Eduporium has created a marketplace of technology products it recommends for educators. But the company does more than just recommend products, Fredkin said. The team also helps educators figure out how to implement the technology into their classroom. Fredkin said he doesn't want new technologies to get stuck in the closet of good intentions because people don't know how or when to use them. Quote, educators are incredibly busy. They don't have the bandwidth to evaluate whether this is true or not and to integrate it into their teaching, Frederick said. They need a company like ours in the role of saying, this is something that's great, this is something that you can use, and here's where you'll deploy it, and here's how you'll use it. Eduporium partners with educational service agencies to work with teachers on understanding how the company's recommended products work, Fredkin said. Our role is really as an introducer. They look to us to place as a place where to find the best in technology, Fredkin said. In addition to educators at schools, Eduporium also works in camps, museums, and higher education. The COVID-19 pandemic disrupted business for Eduporiums alongside schools across the country. Fredkin said before the pandemic, they were growing 100% year over year. And while that growth slowed over the last few years, they've started to regain that momentum. We were a company that was, for the most part, selling physical products meant for kids who are in classrooms. So when they weren't in classrooms, of course, there's a bit of a pivot, Fredkin said. For example, when the pandemic hit, Eduporium worked with a school district in Texas to build computer science kits for every high school freshman. Now the company is thinking about the ways it can expand its offerings in the hot areas like AI and virtual reality. Fredkin said there's a growing movement to make high school students career ready with a focus on technology. It's a mission that's personal for Fredkin as someone who never attended college. Quote, I'm sort of without a degree, but it was access to technology which gave me a career, Fredkin said.
Interesting.
I have to tip my hat to this cat. He doesn't live too far away from me. Here's what I'll say. I know what he's doing. There's for those who are in the IT space, there's a company called Forrester and Gartner. Okay, they have something called the Magic Quadrant. And what this does is it grades different technologies for IT, for organizations focused on IT and acquiring technology integration. And their quadrant determines the viability of the product itself. Firewalls, antivirus, endpoint protection, you name it in information technology, they grade it and they have a pretty good barometer as to how it fits inside of an organization, whether or not you should choose it. He's doing the same exact thing, but from an academic standpoint for emerging technologies from a learning perspective. I think that's brilliant. I think what he's doing is actually brilliant. I haven't heard anybody else doing something like this, but I mean, you have like reviewers on YouTube or, magazine writers who might write an article or two about certain products like Computer Shopper or, PC Gamer or something like that, where they review products, but that's not the same as making the recommendation because that's a journalist versus an actual consultant. What he's doing is actually pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, Mike, and the other thing that there was a line where he said having the kids come out of high school career ready. That's kind of what caught me, right? Like the fact that what the intention behind all of this is to literally make them career ready when they come out of high school. So like that means like having some sort of technical skill set where essentially they would essentially have some sort of certification of some kind. Because to say career ready out of high school, that means you can jump right out of high school into I guess we could say an entry level field of tech.
Yep.
No different than when when I was in high school back in the day and shit, we had auto shop, stuff like that. And bro, like you can get a certification out of high school and then get a job working at a fucking auto shop. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thought.
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, and he's one of the only minority businesses doing this. And you don't need to go to college in order to be, what he is or do what he's doing.
Well, I'm saying that, and that's the thing about it, right? It's kind of like he's making it. It's sort of like how the auto shop and wood shop, metal shop, right? Where you learned a trade in high school. He's using that same kind of thought. It's just tech this time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next item on the docket is from the Columbian.com. Community solar project set for commerce. Washer Grove Port. Clark Public Utilities customers can join effort beginning September 1st, which is today. Beginning September 1st, Clark Public Utilities customers may participate in the utility's newest renewable energy project, Community Solar East. Solar can be expensive for homeowners and be finicky when determining how to properly fit and position the equipment, said Matt Babbitts, Clark Public Utilities Energy Resource Program Manager. By comparison, a community model allows for utility customers to invest in large collection of solar panels in exchange for an annual credit. Community Solar East is comprised of 5 solar energy systems that are distributed across 5 Port of Commerce Washougal buildings, enough to generate roughly 918,850 kilowatt hours of electricity a year. The project is large enough that prices per watt are around $1.70, lower than a residential rooftop system that on average ranges between $3.30 and $4.50 per watt, Babbitt said. The way it works, Port of Commerce Washougal serves as a site host, and those participating in Community Solar East funded. Development costs, including equipment and labor, range around $1.2 million, and additional costs for permitting, administrative work, and upgrades are $60,000. Clark Public Utilities budgeted $1.7 million to cover expenses as participation fees trickle in. Construction will begin shortly after the Community Solar East sale goes live, with its operators expected to take effect by January 2024. Now, why am I bringing this up? We talked about, let me bring this up here. A few days ago, I talked about the White House's fact sheet, the Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black Americans across communities across the country, okay? And what I talked about was this section here, creating economic opportunities and good paying jobs. The IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, spurs solar project development in environmental justice communities by providing a 20% bonus credit for solar projects on federally subsidized affordable housing projects and a 10% bonus credit for solar projects in low-income communities. It also creates a new clean energy and sustainability accelerator that will see state and local clean energy financing institutions support the deployment of distributed zero-emission technologies like heat pump and community solar and EV charging. Remember that, community solar.
Bingo.
Okay? What is this? Community solar.
Community solar.
All of this comes full circle. Okay, there's a lot of people who don't really know that this is going down. And there are some people who would rather stick their head in the sand and say, you know, it doesn't matter. All of this matters.
Hey, Mike, just real quick. When you read that part, it said community solar, and what was the other thing it said?
What are you talking about?
On the, yeah, right there.
Okay.
Can you pull that up? Solar, community solar, and EV charging. Literally, I think was it yesterday you did a live stream. What live stream was that where you highlighted 2 brothers that are in the EV charging infrastructure game?
That was Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yep.
Do you guys need any more proof?
This is why we do what we do, so that we get you the information that's going to be actionable on the ground, okay? A community solar project is very important because most Black people don't own houses, at least not to the extent that they should. And so when you have a lot of these communities that have vacant parcels, you have the ability to take over that land and put solar panels on there. That's where you have a community solar project. Sounds like rocket science. It really isn't. A lot of opportunities are coming out of this administration. I'm not rubbing it in anybody's face. I'm just making the point that this stuff is very important. Now, let me share my screen and point this out to you as well. Let me know you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
This is from the energy.gov, Department of Energy. DOE awards $6.3 million to Black owners of solar services to advance equity in clean energy business and workforce development. Okay. Remember, we just covered it right here. This is the fact sheet. Here's the Department of Energy, $6.3 million on the table. We're not talking about super chat money. We're not talking about Cash App, Venmo, and Zelle. Okay. We're talking about $6.3 million on the table. Let me read it. The U.S. Department of Energy's DOE Office of Economic Impact and Diversity today awarded a grant totaling approximately $6.3 million to Black owners of solar services, BOSS. The cooperative agreement establishes a regional effort to coordinate and train minority-owned businesses on how to apply for DOE funding and access to DOE programs, benefits, services, and opportunities. BOSS, Black-owned solar services, or Black owners of solar services, is the largest community of experienced African-American energy professionals working in the solar photovoltaic space. The partnership will make a monumental contribution to the public and, more specifically, minority-owned businesses in the energy sector by reducing barriers to access all areas of the federal government. It will also help foster a collaborative environment to connect entrepreneurs, students, and workers in the clean energy space. Quote, this collaboration will have a critical role in helping to advance the Biden-Harris administration's equity and climate goals, said ED's Director Shalonda Baker. You know that's her sister. Quote, we have partnered with an organization that is positioned to help us reach critical players in the industry as we have to increase the participation of minority business owners as we move toward a clean energy future. In support of DOE's Justice 40 initiative efforts, the agreement with BOSS helps advance our goals by increasing parity in clean energy technology, solar and storage, simulating clean energy enterprise creation, along with creating clean energy jobs and training for disadvantaged and underserved communities. Well, wait a second. Isn't that what this said right here? It creates a clean energy and sustainability accelerator that will seed state and local clean energy financing institutions, support the deployment of distributed zero emission technologies like heat pumps and solar, community solar and EV charging, while prioritizing over 50% of its investments in disadvantaged communities. Isn't that what it said just right here? DOE is committed to accelerating pollution and reduction and decarbonization efforts, spurring economic growth in underserved areas, and prioritizing equity and inclusion to meet U.S. climate goals. To learn about the Department's Justice 40 initiative, minority-owned businesses, funding opportunities, and more, visit our website. $6.3 million on the table for Black people. Where are Black men at?
Now, NEU in the chat just said he's out building out solar farms right now.
I can believe it.
Shout out to NEU.
I can believe it. Okay. Community solar project set for Kamas, or Washer Grove Port. I'm just highlighting this so that you put all of this together, because some other folks won't let you have that conversation without being interrupted or gaslit or move the goalposts as much as they can so that they can rationalize not supporting an administration that is putting all the effort in to make all of this possible. Okay. Let me move on to the next item on the docket. What's going on here? All right, let me know you can see my screen.
Yeah, we good. Yeah, Mike, you good.
All right, this is from innovationorigins.com. Lead acid batteries, a comeback in energy revolution. Highlight this real quick. Lead acid batteries, known for their traditional use in cars, have seen a resurgence due to their low cost, availability, and recent innovations. These batteries are now used for sustainable energy solutions, integrating renewable energy sources and supporting decentralized power grids. Notable advancements include valve-regulated lead acid batteries, deep cycle designs, and smart charging methods. They are used in diverse sectors, such as industrial applications and rural electrification. While researchers strive for further improvements, despite challenges like limited energy density and safety concerns, they offer cost effectiveness with a positive return on investment. The green energy revolution has seen a surprising player reemerge on the field, the humble lead acid battery. Once considered a dated technology, these batteries are now playing a pivotal role in driving sustainable energy solutions, powering a greener future. Their newfound roles include integrating renewable energy sources, storing energy for intermittent sources, and supporting decentralized power grids. The lead acid battery technology has received a boost from several significant advancements. Innovations such as valve-regulated lead acid batteries, deep cycle designs, and smart charging methods have made these batteries more efficient and adaptable. These technological strides have expanded the scope of their applications, with their use now extending beyond just automotive applications to sectors such as industrial operations, rural electrification, and grid stability. The renewed interest in lead acid batteries has sparked a flurry of research activity aimed at making them more efficient and versatile. Researchers are exploring advanced electrode designs, new electrolyte compositions, and are even looking at the integration of artificial intelligence and Internet of Things, IoT, for battery optimization. This is leading to a continuous refinement of the technology, enhancing its performance and usability. That's not to say that this renewed interest in lead acid batteries doesn't face challenges. Compared to other battery types, the energy density of lead acid batteries is limited. There are also safety concerns due to the presence of lead and sulfuric acid. However, these challenges are being addressed through continuous innovation and stringent safety protocols. Lead acid batteries are making a comeback, not just in the energy sector, but in various applications. For instance, they've been used in naval weapons systems for a long time due to their reliability, economy, and eco-friendly nature. These demands of modern naval systems for improved range, speed, endurance, and sensitivity and accuracy have driven improvements in lead battery technology. Additionally, the use of lead crystal and carbon foam batteries has led to a significant performance increase for lead acid batteries. These innovations address issues such as weight, corrosion, poor thermal stability, and electrolyte diffusion. Lead crystal batteries, which contain 5% sulfuric acid and 95% silicon dioxide, can deliver over 2,500 cycles of service, while carbon foam batteries can deliver over 3,500 cycles at 50% depth of discharge. The future prospects for lead acid batteries include ongoing innovations, growth predictions, and market outlook. With the global lead battery market predicted to grow by 61,000 milliwatts an hour between 2025 and 2031, the demand for these batteries is only set to increase. Lead batteries also play a crucial role in the electrification for the transport sector, from start-stop technology to powering onboard electronics in hybrid and electric vehicles. Further research and development are encouraged as the demand for energy storage rapidly increases. Projects are underway to utilize lead battery technology for backup power at electric vehicle charging stations. With their high safety value and recyclability, lead batteries are considered ideal for residential consumer markets. The Consortium for Battery Innovation aims to increase the cycle life of lead batteries, making them competitive with lithium-ion batteries. Didn't we just get finished covering this here? Okay. Clean energy and sustainability accelerator that will seed state and local clean energy financing institutions support the deployment of distributed zero-emission technologies like heat pumps and community solar and EV charging. While prioritizing over 50% of its investments in disadvantaged communities, the IRA expands clean energy tax credits for wind, solar, nuclear, clean hydrogen, clean fuels, and carbon capture, including bonus credit for businesses that pay workers a prevailing wage and hire using registered apprenticeships so that the clean energy we use creates good paying jobs. We've covered this ad nauseum at this point, but what we're seeing here are a lot of opportunities for Black people and specifically Black men to get into in regards to renewable energies,
so
solar, go on.
Okay, let's talk about these lead acid batteries for a minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why is this important? Hold on, I'm gonna step outside. I was letting my phone charge. So why is this important? Because lead acid batteries, basically for the reasons Mike noted. Number one, they're safer than lithium ion, right? They're actually safer to produce, number one, and safer to use. Okay, you don't really hear about lithium ion batteries blowing up. I'm sorry, lead acid batteries blowing up. You hear that about lithium ion batteries. Okay, those are what explode, right? Two, for energy storage purposes, like there's nothing wrong with a lead acid battery, especially like deep cycle type batteries, marine batteries, batteries that go in like golf carts. You know what I mean? Where they have them daisy chained together. They're like about like a row of 3 of them or 6 of them or something like that. And they'll have it in like a deep cycle array. And so those batteries hold a lot of energy collectively as one battery for a very long time. And they take a long time to discharge. And then they're cheap to make. So if you're utilizing like BMS, battery management system technology and stuff like that, you could better actuate the power out of the batteries and utilize them, right? And reduce energy loss. Okay, that's what they're talking about, utilizing things like IoT and stuff. So perfect example what I'm talking about is that with the scooters that we run, if you had your phone, you had the app, and you go and scan a scooter, and you hit the QR, the scooter will come up, and then you'll see what the battery charge is. Okay, that's through the IoT on the app. So algorithmically speaking, through the controller that's connected to the GPS device, it pulls data from the battery and then feeds it based on that scooter, so that it pops up on your app and then tells you what the battery charge is. So that's what they're talking about with the IoT component to it, to where it's like things can be like just metered via IoT from anywhere, utilizing these, and then you can kind of like do like battery balancing stuff like that with the sophisticated BMSs that they're now incorporating into these batteries. You typically do not see BMSs in lead acid batteries. You'll see them in like lithium ion batteries and stuff like that. They'll have a little chip on them, right? That's soldered to the battery, and it's basically like a small little computer, if you want to call it that. And it literally just manages the whole entire output of all the cells, and it gauges them and balances them in real time. And so you take that, then you connect it through IoT and stuff like that. Now we're talking about a whole different beast. Sorry for the long-windedness.
No, that's actually perfect. Because when you talk about this sort of application, right, then you're also talking about $6.3 million on the table to actually make these things advance. See how this works? And then you're talking about battery storage off grid. Well, here it is. They talked about, at the bottom, they talked about in commercial use cases for like EV charging stations for load shedding. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's a cheap alternative.
Yeah.
Okay. It's cheaper. Like let me tell you something, dude. A lot of things, and Mike, you and I talked on the phone about this. There's a lot of things that don't necessarily need a lithium ion battery.
Yeah.
They could use a lead acid.
Right. And so from a use case perspective, there's a variety of use cases in predominantly Black. See, the idea here is to make the Black community a sandbox for emerging technology to be tested and deployed and capitalized off of. And when you have applications like this, use cases like this, and you have $6.3 million sitting on the table, the ball's in your court now. Now it's about, okay, how do I further this technology beyond where it is right now? Because the artificial intelligence is going to look at the compounds used in lead acid battery development, and it's going to say, based on the last 30 years of research papers, through your various institutions, this is the trajectory, try this method here. Kind of cuts out, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, Mike, you know how I kind of see that AI working in the scenario that you're talking about? I'm going to kind of draw from the micromobility stuff, right? Because there's AI in that. There's AI in that too, right? But let's do it like this. So the AI, what it would do, it would literally fine tune the energy meter. Like I'm talking about literally on down to where it's going to measure humidity, barometric pressure, temperature, like externally, right? And then it'll make determinations on how much energy based on like the demand, outside weather conditions and stuff like that. The AI is going to get to the point where it's gonna figure out these gray areas. And that's how the lead acid battery. That's why it's coming back, because the battery in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with the lead acid battery. It has a purpose. However, if you slave it to like some AI, some IoT, really sophisticated battery management system, again, you don't see lead acid batteries with a BMS slapped on them. You never see that, right? Those are other type of battery chemistries that utilize a battery management system because of the more volatile chemistries, right? But if you put a BMS on an array of lead acid batteries, you could literally, what was that? What was the milliwatt per hour number?
61,000.
Dude, there's a lot of, I can see with AI and IoT and all this shit, there's a lot of energy recapture, let's just say, or let's just say a reduction of spent energy from a lead acid. Pair that with just containment strategies to where you minimize things like corrosion. That's the one thing lead acid batteries do deal with. A lot of people who have cars, I'm pretty sure you went out to your car and you try to turn the ignition and you hear that clicking noise.
Yeah.
And right. And even though your battery could be charged, but you look at your terminals and there's all that corrosion. Okay. that is something that does befall lead acid batteries, corrosion. So in ways of containments where you minimize corrosion and stuff like that, and then you maximize its use through IoT and AI and stuff like that, I can totally see why there's a resurgence in the popularity of lead acid batteries. Again, I didn't mean to be long-winded. I'm a battery nerd.
No, and it fits perfectly into this caption right here. Different article, but same talking point is that leveraging these containers for battery storage off grid.
Yes.
New in the chat asked the question as to where is this land? Well, you got black farmers. Remember that? Black farmers have places where they farm.
A lot of open land.
And a lot of solar panel arrays could be erected on there.
Yep.
$6.3 million. We covered the article here that said they only spent, let's say, budgeted 1.7 million.
And Mike, how I read that too, that's money for like consultants as well, right? Because I think it said black owned solar services.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of a catch-all. You could be a consultant, and what you do is you make these type of arrangements. You might use a mix of, say, like some of those funds and financing, solar financing, right? To set that up in such a way where there's like minimal to literally no cost. And if anything, there's going to be like a zero payout on the energy bill for the landowner that you make the deal with.
Yeah.
Right. Because ideally what we're doing is we're selling this back. That this is an investment strategy. This is like an energy investment strategy. That's what that was covering, what you were reading about.
Yeah. And you know what else, just to kind of close this out.
Yeah, go ahead.
That BMS is going to tell you which one of those lead acid batteries need to be replaced before it completely fails. That's the IoT element that goes back into a database on the blockchain that says this array of, what was I at? Right here. This array of, batteries in this container, rack 6 or whatever it is, needs to be pulled.
Yes. Yeah. Like, dude, there's literally diagnostic apps that I could use. Remember I was telling you about it, Mike? Through Bluetooth, I connect to the controller on a scooter, and it'll literally tell me what cell is bad. I can literally see which is the weakest cell. It'll be highlighted in red. Literally tell you which one. It works literally the same way you were just saying.
Yeah, look at the caption here. Cheap power from solar panels drives the demand for storage. Economies of scale drive down storage costs. Wasn't we just talking about that? So we're not that far off, okay? I haven't even read this article. I just saw it there as reference, but I'm just using it as an example of what we're discussing here. This is not that far out of the realm. You got $6.3 million on the table from the Biden-Harris administration. This is very important.
I mean, dude, like I said, look, people might say, oh, $6.3 million, that's not a lot of money. Actually, when you kind of, like I said, Black-owned solar services, that could be any number of things. Like I said, you could be a consultant. You don't actually own hardware. You're not warehousing the hardware. You're not paying electrical engineers and stuff to get up and wire up a damn solar array.
That money is also for training. It's also for training people, training minorities.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like we got to look at what that money is actually for. It's like I said, Black-owned solar services. That spans the spectrum.
Yeah. No, it helps brothers like this one here on screen.
Yeah, Black Power.
Yeah, that's exactly what he does. That's what his organization does.
That's literally
I mean, we're making this out to be, you know, rocket science, and brothers have already figured this out.
Amazing.
Okay. He's named Time Magazine's, Dreamer of the Year. I don't want to lament on this too much further. We got one last article to cover. Let me bring this up. This is
you're all good, man. I'm just glad that you tied that all together. You know, it was tied together very well, dude. And people need to really see this.
Yeah. All right, last item on the docket. This is from 11alive.com. After car crash left him paralyzed, KSU student working toward finding cure so he can walk again. That's what black men do in their spare times when they can't engage in the discourse.
The SBE.
Yeah. After suffering devastating car accident at just 16 years old, Haru Crooks is determined to find a cure to paralysis. Let me play the video because I think it probably captures it better.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Science is advancing rapidly, finding solutions to problems every day, but it's not happening fast enough for people who need it the most. So one young scientist took it upon himself to find a cure for his own disability. Caitlin Ross explains how he is studying the nature of movement.
As a young boy, I was curious with the world. Everything fascinated me. And I would love spending time with animals and plants and water. That love of nature was my initial spark for science.
Haru Crooks became a scientist.
We're analyzing different genes
to understand how things move.
I wondered, how did this work? How does any of this work at all?
Or why it doesn't work.
I believe that there is a memory in the cells, there is a memory inside the body to heal itself.
In 2016, Haru broke nearly every bone in his body in a car crash on 75.
The worst injury was my spine, which I was essentially left with paralysis.
After months of traditional rehab in the U.S., Haru traveled to Panama and India for stem cell treatment not yet available in the States.
I came back and the doctors couldn't believe it because that was supposed to be my life forever.
Haru got feeling back down to his knee and was able to walk with braces for 10 minutes.
This is phenomenal medicine and technology. Why is this not available in the United States? Essentially, we want to analyze and look at DNA.
When Haru returned to the U.S., he enrolled in Kennesaw State University to research a cure.
I would dedicate my time, my energy, to find out more about these treatments and to advance these treatments.
Now a junior at KSU, Haru works in a genetics lab daily, hoping he can bring the advancements made inside these walls to people around the world.
I do believe there's a treatment. I do believe there's a cure. I do believe we will find it.
His ultimate goal is to figure out how it works.
You can't fake it. You have to know it entirely that it's going to happen.
He wants to feel the grass under his toes and the streams at his feet.
I'm going to really enjoy the day I can walk again, and I think I'm going to enjoy what it took to make it happen the most.
He wants to understand the nature of movement.
Ball State heading into Lexington this weekend. A lot of new faces on this Kentucky.
Yo.
Crazy.
Yo, man. That's wow. Wow, dude. Like what he's trying to do is literally from what I heard and what he's trying to understand is how he's trying to find how to access the cellular memory of the feeling. You know what I mean? He's like literally that focused into it.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's trying to source that. That's some crazy shit. Because
Iron Man.
Huh?
Iron Man.
Oh yeah, Iron Man. Yeah. He's gonna mess around and do some shit like that, bro. Right? Because the other thing that he said that caught me was like at the end, he said, he goes, when I'm able to feel the grass underneath my feet again, I won't be happy because I can feel it again. It was really just the what I learned in order to get me back to that. That's fucking deep. That's deep.
Yeah. Yeah. We all know about, Brain Trust founding member Lionel. Similar, very, very similar situation.
Very similar situation, man. Shout out to Lionel. I just spoke to him like a week and a half ago. Shout out to him.
Okay. You got to have people who are actually doing the work in order to justify public policies being passed so that you can get monies on the table so you can do research like this. Know quite a few people who can't walk. When you have things like the ADA, which is the American Disabilities Act, greatly benefits brothers like that. Now, I know some people will question all his name and whatnot. I don't care about that. Anybody can have random names. I have a lot of guys who I grew up with who are named Jose, and they are completely African American. Okay, because they're one of their parents, speak Spanish. Okay, Afro-Cubans,
Afro-Mexicans, Afro-Panamanians, Guyanese.
Yeah. Central Americans and stuff like that. Slavery didn't just happen in the United States, man. It was all over the Western Hemisphere. So the idea
Belize is full of black folks, right? It's so many places full of black folks.
Yeah. And so we can't just look at a name and kind of dismiss, his story. I think that his story should be told and should be heard. Yeah.
I saw a news comment. He said about lead acid batteries and BMSs, and I'm like, nah, you can create that's easy. You can make a custom BMS with a simple Arduino.
Yeah,
it'll do it just fine. Yeah, that's easy.
With a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, with a Raspberry Pi. Yeah, easy.
Yeah, they have kits like that. If you go to Raspberry Pi's site, there's all sorts of tutorials and stuff of how to make these things work. People have done it in the past. I haven't heard about it being done on lead acid batteries, but that makes a lot of sense.
No, I'm saying that would see the battery chemistry isn't gonna matter.
Yeah,
it's not.
It just if there's current there, it's going to measure it.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to measure it. Yeah.
I put the link in the chat if anybody wants to join the panel. The last maybe 10 to 15 minutes, we can discuss what's been on the agenda. If not, we can peel up out of here. I just think that a lot of opportunities are coming, from these articles that are being discussed. I'd be interested in knowing, what people's thoughts are. Whether it's blockchain for farmers, or you're talking about smart cities, or you're talking about, tech literacy, working in the edutech space.
Micromobility. You got questions with that? Hell, shit, even like energy and battery tech, we've just been geeking out on this for the last hour or so. And just to kind of recap on that's a business opportunity. Like for people that are maybe kind of versed in that type of stuff, right? Batteries, battery supplier, that type of stuff. That's actually a business model right there, especially when you're talking about utilizing, again, deep cycle lead acids for basically power wall use. Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. It's just a way cheaper option than using a whole huge rack of lithium ions, which are highly volatile, might I add.
Yeah, because when you think about a place like Puerto Rico, that was ravaged by like a hurricane in 2017 with the last administration that came around throwing towels at them as he visited them. They don't have a true grid like, let's say, Texas does. And so they're down there, a lot of them are down there without electricity. Even though they're a Commonwealth of the United States, they don't have the same infrastructure.
It's nothing like this.
Yeah, they don't have the same infrastructure. And so this becomes an opportunity to test to pilot your renewable energy project in the country.
Well, they don't have layers of redundancy, right? When it comes to their grid. So for example, let's take California or pretty much any state for the most part. We have layers of energy redundancy, right? So there's going to be some states may still have like a nuclear plant generating shit, right? So you may have that. Then you might have somebody who's still burning coal somewhere, right? Okay. But then in that same jurisdiction, you'll have solar panels up and there could be a wind turbine somewhere, right? So you have like 3 layers of energy production dumping into the grid, right? Here in California, you have hydroelectric, you got wind turbine, you got solar, and then in some places they still use oil, heating oil and shit.
Yep.
Right. So you've got a few different layers here. Puerto Rico didn't have that. So what they need is they have to have a system of banks, battery banks.
Decentralized power structures.
Yes.
Yeah, decentralized power structures, which is what they're working on down there. There is a nonprofit organization. I forget the name. Casa Pueblo, House of Casa Pueblo. I think that's the name. I just saw him this week. I know of a couple of them that are down there, but a lot of your social justice nonprofit organizations are working to put solar panels up on everybody's houses, and they're getting paid for it. These are the sort of
this is in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you got to basically turn every house into a battery essentially. By putting panels up, everything starts collecting energy, so then it dumps into something. So then, like you said, decentralized.
Yeah, because you can't have one massive grid, because that's what happened during the hurricane. The grid went down and everybody else went down. And so once you have these sort of micro run sort of decentralized infrastructure around, if one goes down, then that doesn't necessarily impact the 35, 40 different sort of micro power banks that are around everywhere, or mini power banks that are around everywhere.
They would do load balancing at that point.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's where your lead acid batteries come in. And that's it. All of this comes full circle. Okay. IoT, AI, all of this comes full circle.
It's all, you're gonna need all of this to run all of this.
Yeah. It all comes full circle at the end of the day. And you're not disrupting their culture, because they can still live in the mountains or wherever they live. They just have access to, different forms of energy to live their lives. These are things that I think that, you should put on your on your agenda. So something to think about.
Yeah. And I would even say a backup to that, Mike, a backup to that would be, say, like a biodiesel generator. Right? So worst case scenario, you do have a gas powered generator and it's biodiesel. Right? So the biodiesel generator could then be not only could it power the grid, just literally dump it in real time, but you could do it in such a way where it's dumping into the grid and then charging the banks back up, right? God forbid something happen, right? Like, solar panels get destroyed or some shit. I'm just saying, there's even with this scenario that we're talking about, there's layers of redundancy that can be built in.
You're building resiliency within the infrastructure itself.
Yeah,
so that for future purposes, it makes it highly modular, because you can swap out lead acid batteries on a consistent basis.
Right.
That creates jobs, that creates opportunities. South Africa is going through this problem right now. Load shedding is what they call it. Half the country is in the dark because of
the use on the other side. I heard about this, right? So there's
Yeah.
like people that use, like, I guess in the richer areas, they kind of appropriate more energy to them because they have the money, and then in the other areas they get what do they call them shits? They get like blackouts or some shit.
Well, it's load shedding, right? So
Yeah.
the financial districts of like Joburg, and what they call Sandton. Sandton is like their version of Manhattan. They have all the power during business hours, and then they load shed to other areas after business hours, in order to compensate for the lack of resiliency within the infrastructure. They just don't, the infrastructure is 115 years old. It needs to be replaced. The question is, how do you replace it? How do you, when you don't have the resources to do it? That's where systems like this come into place. Now, the BRICS Summit, that's what China and South Africa were making deals on. Okay. Turkey has also jumped into this as well. They have a big, huge barge that is one big power electrical grid that they just plug up. In a few days, it would provide, 20 megawatts of power or something like that. And so that's the sort of stuff that they're working on over there. But that's the sort of research that needs to be done over here so that you can better those folks over there.
Yeah.
So, all of this comes full circle. There's a lot of industrialization. We talk about fourth industrialization, but now we're in fifth industrialization, which is the human-centric aspect behind all of this. And you start talking about artificial intelligence, not from a job replacement standpoint, but from a co-pilot standpoint. How do I leverage AI to better manage these batteries, lead acid batteries, to get more efficiency out of them so that I'm not plunging my financial resources into lithium battery technology that I can't afford because I don't have that money up front. That's a long-term cost. The short term. You're
gonna lead acid compared to lithium ion, bro. It's trust me. Yeah. You leverage lead acid. That is a low-cost energy solution. And like you said, just lay the tech solution on top to manage that power, because it's very crude in its kind of design, right? And it's I guess you can say kind of like in its sort of design. Lead acid batteries are very crude batteries versus lithium ion. That's a very sophisticated. There's a huge difference between the two. However, you can use tech to harness and make efficient lead acid batteries. Like I said, that's a game changer, man. That's a game changer. You got cats that can get in on the Powerwall game, and literally beat Tesla.
From a cost standpoint,
that's what I'm saying. At a cost standpoint, literally beat Tesla.
Yeah, keep in mind that Elon Musk got $800 million from the Department of Energy in the U.S. government in order to start Tesla,
bro.
So when people want to talk about who's doing what and how things are working, there's a lot of opportunity on the table if we can make the case, if we can make the business case for it. And so I'm thinking about this from a Pan-African, predominantly Black standpoint. A lot of other people are just looking at it from a capitalist standpoint, but how do you can't create business until you have electrification available. Businesses don't work on thin air.
But you need energy.
Yeah. Yeah, I decided to share the screen again, just to highlight Block Power and its mission. The dream of Block Power is that we can go into an undervalued community and train and hire people to transform their own community and lead the way on helping all of America learn how to solve their climate crisis, said Block Power founder and CEO Donnell Bard. Block Power's vision is smarter, green, and healthier buildings for everybody. Okay. This is the brother that's leading the way on this. Mr. Magnetic says he's listening while driving his 45 miles to the gallon hybrid. There you go. There's another application.
Yeah, hybrid, right?
Yeah.
And and just we haven't done like a car talk in a long time. We need to get that start. We need to get that spark back up. We need to kind of discuss the pros and cons of, let's just say, ICE versus hybrid versus full electric cars.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always said, like, I like electric cars, a lot of them, especially the Teslas and stuff, they're sexy. I like them. But there's pros and cons, right? Internal combustion engine, there's pros and cons. Hybrids, however, I think we need to explore hybrid technology a lot more. And I'm just saying, not only as us just on this channel, I'm thinking in terms of the automotive car makers. I really think that they kind of just scratched the surface of hybrid technology, but really did not implement it to the point where we really saw true utilization. And the reason why I say this, and shout out to Jamal Kita Auto, we're motorsport junkies, and with the hypercar classes, Formula One, IndyCar now, because they're going to be switching over to a hybrid setup starting next year. Hybrid, when you look at the performance attributes, bro, there's like so much you can do hybridization between electric, whether it's electric, it could be gas or diesel, whichever. They also have the carbon gas, what they call the e-fuel that Porsche's developing, right?
Yeah.
It's basically a synthetic fuel, right? You mix that, when you mix hybridization together, the ability for power to generate while the gas motor is running, to dump energy into the battery, then use the battery, and it goes back and forth in a reciprocal fashion. There's way more use out of that type of scenario, right? And I think automakers, man, they kind of just dumped hybrid way too soon to try to go to this electric stuff, in my view. Because
that's what the investors want, not necessarily what they want.
But no, that's true. That's true. That's not even, that's totally true.
The investors are saying we're not putting any money, behind your, organization, or if you're publicly traded, we're not. Yeah. The stock is not going to skyrocket until you talk about EV.
Right, and the reason why, Mike, is because we got to look at the changes in the energy sector, right? We talk global politics, we talk this stuff all the time, right? So markets, even though they may be separate, for those of y'all listening, even though markets might seemingly be separate, they're actually intrinsically woven into each other. Perfect example: energy markets, automotive market. Why? Because automobiles need energy, right? You see, so what's happening on the energy market largely is going to determine what's going to happen on the automotive market. That's what I'm saying. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But there's a thought. Okay, Mike. I don't think this is just something we talked about. I don't know if this was even covered. Talk about McLaren buying Van Moof.
What about them?
Well, I'm just saying, McLaren is a traditional automotive brand, correct?
Yeah, but I think McLaren is separate from the car company itself.
Well, no, it's under the McLaren Automotive Group. What it was is that it was a tech company. So the tech company develops the software that McLaren uses for their cars.
Yeah, because they also made a OnePlus phone as well 2 years ago.
Yeah. So the subsidiary under McLaren is the one that does all software integrations and all that kind of stuff, right? And so what they went and did was like we were talking about. they made the move to go and grab what? An e-bike company, a micromobility company, right? To get into the electric game, but they're getting into it on the smaller scale, right? Utilizing brand cachet. And what they're going to do is they're going to start selling those e-bikes loaded with tech, right? And selling them at a competitive price points like the Mercedes and the Porsche and the other companies that got their bikes and stuff like that, right? But see, those are smaller, those are lower dollar cost investments into EV. Do you get where I'm going with that?
Yep.
Right. And so that's why I'm kind of like, okay, we can let's analyze this from a few angles. Here in the States, we're largely looking at like GM and Ford for the most part, like literally just getting rid of their sedans, only producing trucks and SUVs, and then basically saying it's all about EVs going forward with no kind of micromobility offerings, right? To really kind of validate kind of just where they're going to go with all of it. And so this is where I'm like, I think where automakers may have lost out was in the hybridization side of things. We just scratched the surface on hybrid technology. You're only seeing it utilized at a high clip in race cars, not so much in production vehicles.
Yeah,
they went to EVs too quick, in my view.
Yeah, because Tesla kind of forced them to force everyone else's hand to jump, right? And no one wants to be behind if they were previously a market leader. The same thing could be said about the cloud computing space. IBM, International Business Machine, is known as a juggernaut in the IT space. No one ever gets fired for buying IBM, but you had a company that was a bookstore eclipsed them in the cloud computing space.
This is true.
Unheard of, right? And so everyone's starting to learn their lessons that, we got to keep up. But to your point, they jumped into EV too fast without doing the necessary research. Now, Toyota is different. Toyota didn't just jump into EV. They tested the hybrid sector first. Jumping into EVs because they were already involved in the Prius product. They already invested into the Prius product, and so the Prius gave them a whole lot of
data.
A lot of data in a test bed to understand better what the market wants and how it can better, serve it. And so the Prius is like the crown jewel for energy efficient vehicles and what. And then that technology that was developed with the Prius also trickled down to the RAV4 and the Corolla and name your other Toyota vehicles.
You know what else it did, Mike? You know what else it did? It also validated like Uber and Lyft's business model to a large extent.
How so?
Well, utilizing a highly efficient vehicle.
Yeah. But how do you take it? Then, Toyota also went with hydrogen-based vehicles too.
Yeah. Well, that's what they have.
But
that's what they have the lock on right now. Hydrogen fuel cell technology. Because I think what they did, dude, I honestly believe Toyota use cased the Prius, similar to how GM use cased the EV1.
Yep.
Right? I think that's what Toyota did with the Prius. However, knowing that what they really have a lock on is hydrogen fuel cell technology, which for those of you guys that don't know, that's also a form of hybridization.
Yeah.
Okay. But the thing about it is like Toyota pretty much kind of owns the book on that shit.
Because they had a head start. And Toyota actually was it Toyota or Honda that collaborated with GM on the EV project, on that EV1 project? We know that GM and Toyota did collaborate to create the company called Metro. Geo. Sorry, Geo.
No, Metro was the model, but Geo. Yeah. I want to say it was Toyota. It was GM and Toyota. I want to say, yeah.
Well, they also collaborate with Honda as well on other projects for Saturn and a couple other platforms. But I can't remember off the top of my head. But
you know what, dude? It could have been Honda. If you think about it, think about the shape of the EV1 and the inside.
Yep.
Think about the wheels. It might have been Honda.
Yeah. Mr. Magnetic says it's Honda. So
Okay.
I'm just
all right,
making
yeah.
the point.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah.
I'm just making the point that from a hybridization standpoint, how do you create battery storage out of that technology, right? That went into the Prius, that went into the RAV4, that went into, you know, some of these other vehicle platforms. How do you create battery storage capabilities for renewable energies and the alike?
Mm-hmm.
See, this sort of setup is drop ship. Okay, you build it in the factory, you deploy it to any location that is in need of it, and you know, you can fit this inside. You know, I mean, you're not just going to use one container. I mean, you're talking about series of containers, 5, 10, 15, 20 in a connected array.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna array a few containers.
Yeah. And so you start talking about lead acid batteries and artificial intelligence and better managing these things and getting more efficiency out of it and expanding the cycles, the amount of cycles that can come out. There's a lot of opportunity that comes out of this. With $6.3 million, you can do a lot of research with this.
That's a lot of lead acid batteries.
Well, it's a lot of Black people who can be paid to be involved in the research and development of these technologies so that you can actually either get a patent out of it or further the development of it.
I'm thinking, no, in all seriousness, bro, because when you were saying that, I'm imagining like a damn computer screen and a user interface, right? That literally has all these banks, these little boxes, and it's showing you the voltage of each one, right? And the numbers are ticking up and down, like literally every second, right? Between this array of banks, right? Like, so that you got like 5 of those containers, but then, like you said, you got array of batteries in each one. So then you would, on the screen, you would see all of these. You would see like container 1, container 2, container 3, container 4, container 5, and then you click on that one. Then inside, you can see what each cell is doing, right? I can literally totally see all that shit. I can literally see it. It's just like a little mini energy, like energy power utility. And you have like a person that sits there and monitors the shit, right? Oh, we got a bad cell. They deploy a dude out. He goes out. They lock and tag out that one cell. He switches it out for another battery. Boom, bring it back online. I could totally see the shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll recondition the cell or we'll toss it or whatever needs to be done. And so,
I mean, it's here, Mike. You know, just and not even. My bad, dude. I didn't mean to cut you off or anything like that. But I guess like with us, man, it's like we talk about this to the detail for those listening, because we can see it to that degree, because things do work very much in that capacity already. And now what we're talking about is we're talking about these smaller compartmentalized systems that can be utilized and managed with like the type of like computing power that we have at our fingertips. Right? We have it at our fucking fingertips. And that's why we're also saying like even like the BMSs to measure all this, you can use a Raspberry Pi to set it up. See, it's really incumbent upon us. And so what we're doing is we talk like this because we're brainstorming, right? We're kind of presupposing and putting these things out here based on how these things work, how we know these things to work. Are we engaged in them in ourselves? Not particularly. Not particularly. I have a shit ton of batteries, and that's what kind of led us down this rabbit hole. But from what I know, Mike and I both he's built batteries for RC cars and all kind of breadboards and all kind of shit. So this is how we can kind of go back and forth from a brainstorming standpoint. But everything that we're saying is not like a pie in the sky exercise. It's a literal exercise. Like this is literal what we're talking about. That's just really what I want to get across. This isn't just for shits and gigs. It's not.
Yeah. All right, no one's coming up. So thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button on the way out, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust.
Oh,